evening, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 143 of Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. This episode, we're doing a community spotlight, a bit of a focus on one member of the community and her creations. And we'll be talking a lot about writing and fan fiction in this episode. Our guest tonight is Marie-Claude. Say hello, Marie-Claude.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to the show. Welcome back, I should say, because you've been with us twice before, and I had to go back to our notes to check. So, episode 101, when we did an Elise deep dive.
Yeah.
And who else could we call upon, really, to talk about Elise? And then back again soon after, episode 118, when we did a book review of the Unity novelization. Yeah. So we've definitely covered a lot of Unity topics with you in those two episodes. But we're kind of doing, are we doing Unity again, would you say?
Yeah, kind of, right?
Kind of.
Like how it should have ended, kind of.
Well, I mean, let's go from there. So tell us a bit about your, how to describe it, epic scale fan fiction. When did it start? When did you think, I need to write?
My goodness. So right when Unity came out, when you're in a fandom, what do? You go read fan fiction, because whatever you're consuming, whether it's a movie, a series, or a game, you just want more. And some of us have more imagination than others, I guess. So I was looking for stories, and I read a lot, but they were not always what I wanted to read. So at one point, I had absolutely way too much imagination, and so I started thinking, so what happened the night before they went to fight Germain and all of that? So that was the first story that I wrote. It was meant to be absolutely standalone. If We Only Have Tonight is the name. And yeah, absolutely 300,000% smutty, because, like I said, I had too much imagination. But did I call myself a writer back then? Absolutely not. Did I have ideas? Not really. Then I guess a month later, I started with a friend of mine, Lorena. Not sure you're gonna listen to that, but hey, Lorena, thank you for helping me out. We started thinking, so what happened in the hot air balloon? Because we know from the novel that we absolutely know what happened, but what actually happened?
I think the phrase is "a gentleman doesn't tell," isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what he said.
Yeah.
And Elise was like, "Yeah, it went really well." Like, I'm not saying anything. So that was the story, and it's I can still remember exactly where I was when I got the idea. I was on Tumblr, in my hotel room in London, because we were going that weekend for one of those Doctor Who conventions. I think it was the Finnish convention that time. So I was in my hotel room the day before we were supposed to leave, and I was on Tumblr. I was chatting with other Assassin's Creed fans, and I said, like, okay, so I want a story where Arno and Elise are just in love. They're in the south of France, and they're having goats and children, and all is well. So I was like, so is anybody's gonna write that? Because that's what I want to read. And then the responses were like, oh yeah, that would be cool, but no one like volunteered to write it. I was like, so I'm gonna have to do it, right? Okay, I'm gonna do it. Okay, little did I know, in January, end of January 2015, that I would start this never-ending tale, which is still going on so many years later.
I'm thinking, because I've read the whole work, all three of your works.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. So in the main story, which is called In a Family Way.
In a Family Way, yes.
You have covered up to the year 1790.
7. We're in October-ish. Yeah.
So we're about we're sort of, let's think, 5
3 years.
years.
3 years.
God, oh my word, my memory.
Hey,
3 years
aren't you
after
the
the end.
IT guy? You know, maths and stuff.
You know, maths was never my strong point at school.
Okay.
So yes, we're 3 years after the end of the events
Unity, yeah.
of Unity, but you've been very slowly over, well, as you just described, sort of 7 years. You've been
Yeah.
adding to this
Blowing
story.
at it.
Okay, so how much of what you're writing, because you've published quite a few chapters in the last 8 or 9 months, I guess.
Yeah.
You've published 5 or 6
Yeah,
chapters, maybe.
something like that. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you? Had you mapped out what you're writing now back then, or
Um.
has it evolved over
It,
time?
I had. I mean, spoiler warning. This whole podcast will be full of spoilers
Yep.
because I'm just not going to hold back. So if you haven't read the 900 plus pages, 46 chapters on AO3, pause, go read, and come back in 5 months. Probably how much it's going to take you to read it. Some general ideas were already thought of from the start. I mean, if we go in spoiler territory, very soon from the get go, I wanted to find a way to have Arno's mother to come back in the picture somehow. Um, the number of children is more or less defined as well. Not all of them are there yet. That's all I can say. Um, Also, at the point that I am now. Um, I mean, if we go back to the cosplay I made, which I call Elise 1815, where she's clearly Templar Grandmaster, yeah, that's kind of where I'm working at right now, but I'm still just in 1797, and she's far from that point yet.
That
But
I
that
just
doesn't
know.
mean I'm gonna write from 1797 until 1815. That's the thing. That I kind of have an idea where I'm gonna stop, and then probably just jump later on. But
Understood.
I don't know, is it going to be chapter 50, 55, 60? No idea. Some things come up like, oh, that would be nice. And then I just forget. That's just the creative process. Has
What I'll
evolved.
say to anyone listening, so Marie-Claude has mentioned a costume that she made, which she's called her Elise 1815 costume. If you want to see that, and you really should, check out her Twitter profile, and I'm sure Instagram as well.
Yeah.
And the pin post shows this amazing costume. I've got a question though. Did the idea for the costume come first, or the story?
Oh, the story, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Because I had made, I mean, that's also something. Yes, we're going to talk about writing, but it's intricately linked to
Mm.
my creative sewing as well. Um, I had made another one before a few years ago. Pandemic hit, didn't fit anymore. So I had to make another one. But I wasn't really satisfied with what I had made before. It was just blue riding coat, but it was not really decorated, and I just didn't have like it. Kind of creative block at that point. I wanted to make it, but it was just not. It's not what I want to make, and it's really literally last year brain brain fart. I guess like I got it. I know what I'm gonna make, and then it was yeah. I guess that's my not yet diagnosed ADHD doing that, but it was like late in the evening. I was like, brainwave. Yes, that's what I'm gonna make. Do I have the pattern? Oh yeah, I have this pattern. Yes, I have this pattern. And I went looking in all my patterns. How come I don't have that pattern? Because I was thinking of one specific sewing pattern
Mm.
that I thought I had, and I ordered immediately. And do I have fabric? Yes, I have fabric. Do I have enough? Yes, I have enough. Yeah, sometimes I get creative bursts of energies like that. Also for writing, but mostly for costuming. Um, yeah, but once I reach this point, I will probably use the description of what I made in it. Usually it's the other way around. I will write something, a description of an outfit, and then I would make it more often than not. Like it's not the other way
Whoa, interesting. Okay,
around.
okay. So the art inspires life, if that's the right way around.
Yeah,
Kind
exactly,
of. I mean,
exactly.
the costume making is incredible art as well. What you do is incredible. But okay, why we've covered this in our previous episodes, but for those that maybe are new or haven't listened to some of our earlier ones, why write about Arno and Elise?
um, yeah, I don't know. It's just it's no, but it's sometimes I wonder like why did they touch me so much? I can't explain it. Why do you like Unity as well? Like what touched you so much?
Are you
Like
asking
I
me?
yeah, but it's like
Ooh.
so it's sometimes I can't explain it. Like it just blew me away.
Mm,
Was
mm,
was it last week that I had posted that email that I had sent my husband now 8 years ago in August of 2014? Like, hey, check it out, that statue of that character Elise that's gonna come in the new Assassin's Creed. She kind of looks cool. Might want to make the cosplay, like really kind of. My husband like, yeah, it's a cool franchise. You should do that. Little did I
little
know.
did you know.
Little
Yeah.
did I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to write because again, I had imagination, I guess, and I just needed to put my thoughts of how Elisa I basically got stolen from the life she could have been, um, purely for Arnold's pain, because honestly, there was really no other reason. Um, though I can still rationalize and understand why they had to kill her off to show two sides of the medals of redemption versus revenge. I get it,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but it could have been done in a better way. Um, so I guess it's purely imagination. Wanted to give her the life that I wish she would have had, the continuation I wish she would have had. Though I took a very conscious decision at the beginning to um, take them away from the life that they know to build something else. Like I took
Mm.
like it was not for nothing that like if we go back to that letter that Elise wrote and that you can read in the game, like are we going to be master assassin templar grand master, or are we going to be in the south of France raising goats? Like yeah, I'm taking that option.
It's something
Partly,
that's always. Oh, sorry. Go on. Sorry. Go
no,
on, Marie-Claude.
partly because I didn't feel confident enough in my knowledge of the lore of Assassin's Creed, um, to really build upon, um, like really the yeah, make it a Templar assassin unity, we must unite kind of story. At the time, I was really new to the franchise. I mean, I still consider myself new, but I was not confident enough. So I was like, well, if I take them away from this and do something completely different, then I guess it's my
Makes
uh,
sense.
uh, fear of failure that it will be easier for me if I try to do that rather than continue the story from where Unity left. Um, but just having Elise not dying and really just continuing from there. So I thought, nah, I want to take them to the south of France. Let's put them. But then it was an interesting psychological exploration of how does one react when they are put in a different situation that they don't know anything about. Um, they've they've had misery all their lives, basically both of them. What is it like to be happy, to build something, to not be pursued, although that lasted a few chapters only, but to not be pursued by their old life? Can they manage to heal from their traumas? Can they, yeah, can they raise their children? Can they protect them enough? to protect them from the life that they've had, so they don't have the same life. So it's for me, it was an interesting challenge enough that I didn't need to continue with the pure lore of Assassin's Creed.
So it's a weird question to ask, but I'm a weird person, so that makes sense. One thing I've noticed lately, and listening to you and looking at your work, you put a lot of time, effort, research. It's, in my opinion, it's no different to a cosplayer, a streamer, or a vlog. But do you really think that Ubisoft should start promoting fanfic writers? Because I get
Yeah,
it. I get it from a copyright angle. There is the tendency that this is our property, this is our work, but by rights, Yggdrasil device open up the doors to say, hey, everything's a simulation over a simulation.
yeah,
Ubisoft could promote non how do I word it
yeah.
politely? Maybe not too NSFW works, because I know there's some very steamy
Um,
works
I
out
mean,
there, but
we were in Assassin's Creed 3 the week this week, and how many Haytham Connor male slash male stories there are on AO3? There are many. No, I have
Sorry,
never read
sorry.
any, but yes,
I
there
need,
are
I need
plenty. Hmm.
Hatham and Connor,
Yeah, just like
father and
don't
son.
put
ask.
Easy and Jacob together, that exists as well.
You don't
Right.
ask.
Anything goes in fan fiction. That's one thing. Anything goes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a weird. Like, one of my favorite TV shows is Supernatural, and
Yeah. Oh
Tumblr
yeah. Oh
is
yeah.
a
Yeah.
flood with Sam and Dean, who are brothers, fanfic and art, and it's just like, yikes. So I do understand from a Ubisoft point of view, sharing fanfic that is too NSFW or a bit hard to digest
Yeah.
is hard enough, but stories like yours, especially, would be one that Ubisoft could promote. Like, hey, you should give this a read, because it is an interesting take that isn't just let's get them shacked up in the middle of a forest and do 50 Shades of Grey. It's a deep
Well, there's a little bit
story,
of that too, but
but there's a lot more to it as well. Like, that stuff
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
life, and that stuff is life. But some of the fanfics I've read, it's literally, 50 Shades of Grey, get your safe room, Jacob, because it's going to be a long night. That's the stuff that maybe they shouldn't promote, but stuff that looks like the psychological, can they heal the traumas, is as much part of Assassin's Creed as the Assassin's Creed games are, because that is a type of philosophy that should be explored. So maybe
yeah.
Ubisoft should promote some fanfickers as much as they do other works, especially yours, because I've started to read a bit of yours and it is interesting.
Okay, not cool. Yeah. I mean, obviously, as a fanfic writer, I agree. Um, it would have probably caused the friendship that I've had in the past not to break up if they would do that. Long story short, I was friends with another writer who wrote. I know she stopped years ago, but she was writing also a continuing story, but keeping closer to um, the ending, and basically involving Elise in Dead Kings, and like what kind of different version of it, and having her own story. I was also friends with another guy from Australia, if I remember well. He was also writing a story. Um, but yeah, I mean, because I was getting attention as a cosplayer, and she was just a writer. I mean, not just. She also did a lot of research, and she was putting a lot of effort in her own story. Um, yeah, I get promoted as a cosplayer, but as a writer, you will never get attention, and it's kind of sucks. And I completely agree.
I think
Like they put a lot of effort in their own stories as well, and all many of us have in the community have put a lot of efforts into our writing, um, to write the best story that we can tell. um, yeah, kind of sad. Of course, if we're writing non-canon story it's a bit different, I guess. But yeah.
I think it's a hard one because when I was in the Mentors Guild before it sadly got closed down,
Mm.
I did post a few screenshots of my own fanfic,
Hmm.
but as you could see clearly from the Mentors Guild, there was a lot of promotional areas for like vlogs, podcasts, streamers, fanfic, fan artists, but there was never anything for fanfic, and it kind of got me scratching my head because there was a lot of talk that the crossover DLC between Odyssey and Valhalla was
Yeah.
inspired by fan art, and it got me thinking, fan art's no real different to fanfic. It's just
Yeah.
a more visual medium. So why can't Ubisoft look at some of the work and help promote them? Because these writers do a lot, as you could probably contest in the next question.
Mm.
Historical research is a ball ache. It
Oh,
is
it's a bitch.
awful. And if anybody can write 900 words, well, 900 pages, or even as little as a 200-page short story, and go through that much pain to do historical research, give them a bit of like, hey, read this, it's cool. It should only be
Yeah.
fair on Ubisoft's part, in my opinion.
And I mean, I haven't really followed because anything remotely linked to Valhalla, I'm kind of disconnected from it. Sorry, guys. Um, but I'm sure they probably gave a shout out or maybe even monetary compensation, maybe to the artist to make the fan art. Why can't they do the same for essentially fan fiction writers? I mean, hey, you got a great idea. We could pay you for it if we want to use it. Okay, sure. Why not?
See, they did commission, and James might know this better than me, the Bing Storm novel, which is technically a non-canon novel.
I've
Mm.
heard that because we've got that novel. We've
Yeah.
both been sent that novel to read and review at some point in Ming Storm, and I remember you or someone saying it's non-canon. So what is the backstory there? Why is there a novel that's official, quote unquote, but is if it's
Okay,
just
like
a
published
what
by
if?
Ubisoft then, or
Yeah, is it
okay,
Aconite Books? I think it's got the Ubisoft. It must be official because
It
Ubisoft would have shut it down if it wasn't.
it retells Chronicles China, and it is an official licensed product, part of a series. I don't know
Hmm.
if it's a duology or a trilogy, but it's not canon to the game verse, is what it's meant to be
okay,
known.
Right.
But
Okay.
that opens the floodgates to, okay, it's not canon to the game verse, cool, but you've hired a writer to do it.
yeah,
How many fanfickers would love the opportunity to write, even if there is guidelines, so it's not as NSFW, even if it is set in a certain parameters, because I think that's only fair on a business model to set parameters. How many fanfickers would jump to the opportunity to publish a story for Assassin's Creed? And being a community member as a fanficker who would do that, that fanficker would put as much passion into that as a developer or an actual author because it's their love. So it's a win-win business model, in my opinion.
yeah. Yeah, it's true. But I mean, at the same time, when I make a costume, I mean, if it's a cosplay or whatever, of course I'm gonna do research. Um, when I started writing things in the story that I want to recreate, I did research. Um, there's research in writing. There is research in art as well. How do I do it? You have accumulation of your practice, your art classes. It's this writing is no different. If I look, because I have a friend, a Canadian friend, who is currently trying to query to get someone to take her manuscript, and I read it, and it's amazing. And but I know that she takes great care of her craft and improving as a writer. I'm not doing that because I guess I'm like, I'm just a fan fiction writer. I shouldn't really take that seriously. But I mean, for real serious people out there, um, I mean, it should be rewarded, shouldn't it? We're a member of the community as much as we do, but I guess we have a bad rep, fan fiction writers, because we write Hatem slash Connor stories. I mean, we doesn't include myself, obviously, but you know what I mean.
I'm reminded of something. This is way off topic. Well, it's kind of off topic. My children are in secondary school, and every year there is a publishing company here in this part of the UK, and they run a poetry competition around all the schools, hundreds and hundreds of schools. And one of the end results is the poems that are selected as, sort of the best from each school, they're published in an anthology. So you've got, 200 poems in this book. Of course, a poem is shorter than a fan fiction novel or even a chapter from a novel. But, that's a really nice way of collecting together the works of many people. There is no reason why, as a sort of annual, best of the best anthology or whatever you want to call it, that you couldn't collect together interesting fan fiction stories from different members, different fans, from different games, different characters.
Absolutely.
The one I remember seeing, and actually the reason I remember it is because it was the design, I think, and the typesetting was done by Serverland's Flowers. Serv, who's been on the show with us before and has done our logos for us in the last few months. And that was the Eagle's Path design that was published 18 months ago, maybe. And that featured a mix of artworks, gameplay tips, and I think there was a couple of fan fictions in there. And I think that kind of celebration, or that kind of, yes, this is not official, but we want to show a bit of, show our fans just how creative some of our fans are, because definitely I feel it. We do this show and I love what we do and I love our conversations and I'm proud of what we do, but I definitely think that doing this kind of format gets a lot less visibility, like you said, between cosplayers and fan fiction writers, or artists and fan fiction writers. There are certain types of media that definitely get more attention. I get it. It's easy to look at a picture.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you
And say
scroll
that's
and
nice. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Like reply.
Yeah. But there's definitely ways that the light could be shone upon some of the creativity that is done in text rather than in art or clothes or videos or gameplay guides or all the other creations. So it's interesting. There are ways to do it. But I think you've had some really nice feedback in the past 6 months or so from some of the transmedia people or the brand people at UB for your work.
But it was it was mostly for the costume itself, because again,
okay.
But obviously the costume was taken. The Elise 1815 was taken. I mean, it's where I'm gonna get. Like, spoiler alert. It's where I'm gonna get with the story eventually.
I haven't got to the end yet.
Well, neither am I. Neither am I. But I mean, I like that he had said something like, "This is your Elise." So I was like, this is mine." And I mean, that's one thing I realize, and I think I warned you about that when I told you, "Hey, you can perhaps read this," last year when I sent you.
I think you did. Because
don't expect characterization as she is in the game, neither for Arno, because I've taken them out of there and kind of broke them down to rebuild them.
Absolutely.
And I had to break down.
It was when I finished the game. That was it. Finished the main story, and I think I either tweeted it, or I may have messaged you, or I can't remember. And
I think I replied to your tweet something like, "Hey,"
and you said, "Try this. You might like it," and I did. So that was easy. But I'm interested in actually this is something that we discussed in the previous episode when I interviewed Kate Hartfield, the author of the new book Mega's Conspiracy, and what she does is the same as what you do. Of course, there is action and there is plot, and stuff happens, but there's a lot of psychology, breaking down a character's thoughts. She does it with Simeon Price an awful lot. And you as well, as you just said, you really broke your characters down. And was that something that you'd planned from the start, that this will be
Um,
more about
yes and no.
inner thoughts?
Yeah, that's because I guess that was something that I found the most interesting. Also, just reading a novel, um, like because you play the game and you wonder why are the characters doing what they're doing right now? What's behind? What's the backstory? What could have happened in their lives that could have changed them? I mean, with Elise, it's I don't want to say it's easier, but in a way it is because we did get a full backstory in the novel, and the more I went, the more I realized we really don't really have a deep backstory on Arno, and he's the fucking main character. What the
That is a
hell?
good point.
We don't like. Okay, we know his mother abandoned him, but why? At what age? Whatever. No idea. Not important. Mom is gone, as all mothers almost of Assassin's Creed, to be
Mm,
honest. Um, Elise, we have the whole story of her attachment to her mother, and the role that Freddie has played, the role that her father has played, and everybody else in her life, Hélène, Jacques, like everyone. But Arno, it's like, okay, you're the main character. Okay, we see your father, but then he's killed immediately, and I'm sure you long for him because you keep on looking at your watch, but there's not really an exploration there. Um, like I never felt that we went deep enough. Like even with this relationship with Belek, you can read it in so many ways, but again, it's just a little part. Like, what could have gone through his head at that moment, having to kill his third father figure, sorry, that he's had in his life? He had found a family again, finally, with the Brotherhood. But shucks, they're just as bad as the other families I've been in. Um, like, I wish there was more exploration there. So that's why I thoroughly enjoyed bringing Maria back. Okay, Marie, but I'm gonna call her Maria because that's how I decided to call her. Um, to bring his mother back and see like how did he live the trauma of being abandoned as a young child. Your mother is always important, your father as well. Of course, raising children was different in the 18th century than what we are used to, because the concept of raising children as children is something very Victorian. Um, it's not the same as it was in the 18th century. But yeah, like I just enjoy watching YouTube videos about psychology and trauma and schemas and all these things to kind of understand why he would act in a certain way and how he could possibly feel when confronted with his mother again and reliving the pain of being abandoned. Because for me, Arno has been he's always looking for a family and somewhere to belong. That is that is 100% who he is. Other people could probably disagree, but that's how I read him the whole time, just looking for a family. And that was probably one of the other motivations to actually give him the family that he wanted. Um, and decide to write that kind of story instead of just starting off continuing his life as an assassin for now. For
that's
now.
yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to pick up on, because one of the common opinions you read, or when fans are saying, "Oh, I'd love to see this story continued,"
Mm,
the story that often comes up is, "I want to see Arno go and hunt down Shay." And I know I've said this on previous
yeah,
episodes. I am repeating myself, but I always took away from Arno's character in the game that, and I appreciate Dead Kings does slightly disagree with my personal opinion, but hey, this is my analysis of his character. Um, I always took away that he'd seen the worst of kind of both sides, or
yeah.
the tragedy of believing either path,
Hmm.
and therefore, once his task of redemption against Germain was done, he would just walk away. and have nothing to do with Templars or Assassins. He wouldn't go back to the Brotherhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know he gets the Master Assassin outfit at the end, but we can just
Yeah, but
ignore
that's
that for a minute.
Ubisoft, and they want us to make us
Yeah, yeah,
believe in.
yeah. But you took the same. You took them very quickly in the story. Spend a few weeks or a few months in Paris, then they're gone. Was that always your plan as well from the start,
Yeah,
that they would walk
yeah.
away from the conflict
They
between
would
the
walk
two?
away and go as fast as possible.
Mm,
I kind of it's funny because I started this episode talking about the first two very smutty stories I wrote, um, but when I finished writing Up in a Way, like the last few bits, I was already planning in a family way. I was already brainstorming with my friend Lorena. We were already kind of thinking about it. So that scene afterwards, when they're talking about the future, it was there on purpose. That he wants a family. He just wants to get married. He wants to have daughter and two boys, and then and but she's like, what the heck, no. I'm not supposed to do that. So that was really on purpose, setting up for the first few chapters of Infinity Way, where this exact
gotcha.
conversation kind of goes again, like, I don't want to get pregnant, what the heck. And he's like, oh my god, yes, because
Mm,
that's exactly what their mindsets were. And at the same time, like, as much as I don't like, some people might think that I enjoy beating Elise to a pulp. Um, but the way I see it anyway, she's the one more under threat than he is. Because again, as you said also, he wants nothing to do and he cut off, and the Brotherhood honestly couldn't care less about him.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I, I still don't understand how he ended up Master Assassin later on. So, but that's just like, I agree with you, it makes no sense. But anyway, um, so the conflict of bringing back Ruddock, which I bloody hate, and I made him as vile as I could because
Oh, he's horrible. Oh,
that's how I think he is anyway. Um, so I mean, I needed a reason for them to leave. Okay, Elise being pregnant was one, but okay, they can still hide in the cafeteria and live their lives. Um, but yeah, I needed to get them out. That was one reason. So Ruddock, so she need to leave, and yeah, as fast as possible. So that was my reason for writing that.
it felt more consistent, your how you carry the story forward, than what we saw right at the end of Unity. Because Arno's Creed speech is awesome, but again, dude, where'd you get that outfit from? I don't know if you were ever going to go back to the Brotherhood, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
He
like, how did you end
stole
up
it.
being a?
Say again, Declan. He
Okay,
stole it.
Yeah, that's it. That's canon. He just punched an assassin, took it, made a
okay.
Right.
speech, disappeared.
Oh, so it's like that thief in Dead Kings who ended up with
Uh,
Elise's clothes, right? Okay, yeah,
Yes. Yes.
okay.
Oh dear.
uh,
um,
that was not good.
You brought back some other characters though, because I want to talk about Freddy, because I love Freddy,
Yeah,
and
so do I.
you brought back a few other characters. Tell us about. I'll tell you. Why don't you describe people who haven't listened to our previous episodes and who haven't read the Unity novel, who is Freddy and what do you do with his character
Yeah.
in your sort of alternate future?
In my alternate future. So Freddy is in my head canon, Elise's father, but anyway, definitely a father figure after her father died, or if her father was too busy. He trained her, he was her mother's former lover. Basically, a very, very important character for Elise, and also kind of a red thread through our whole life in in the novel, at least. So Um, I tried I tried to have him. So he comes out. Arno goes to get him in England, um, because I decided he was going to be staying in England instead of being like at the end of Unity in the novel when he is still in the suburbs of Paris.
Mm.
Um, and it was a bit of a joke between me and my co-writer at the time. We were like, "Oh, we're just gonna have him fall in love with the maid." Um, but it's also because I started. Her name is Madeleine, and I started writing her as it's not going to be an important character. I don't care. But the more I was writing her, the more I was enjoying it, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, we're gonna ship her with Freddy. Yep, let's go. Let's do that. So when Arno and Elise are getting married, these two are getting acquainted, and they kind of like each other. And because to me, I was like, I want to give him a comfy life with a wife that loves him and gives him some love that he hasn't had his whole life. Yeah. Big cry. And later on, several
Sorry, that did
years,
make me laugh.
a couple of years later, when Edie gives birth to the twins, he comes over just to visit. Basically, still try to get her back into the Templar fold, but she's like, "Fuck off," more or less. Um,
Mm.
but then I decided, oh, okay, they're getting married. So they kind of arranged a quick wedding, which also unfolds other things. So yeah, so I just give him a comfortable life with a wife who likes him, who loves him, and who's just gonna dote on him, so he can spend the last years of his life feeling loved instead of like
Oh.
an old guy with his bottle abandoned. Because as a British Templar in France, or even a British Templar in Britain, it's probably not well regarded as being on Elise's side. Yes,
Go on,
Declan,
Declan.
thoughts?
I was just gonna say, I feel really bad now. Like, you give Freddy like a nice, happy after, and it's just me who's killing Freddy off.
Well, I think we need to talk about this point, Declan, because this is the nice thing about this community and different people that you meet and different stories that you hear, is that you've been inspired, haven't you, to do put your own pen to your own paper.
Yes, after 15 years of trying to write a book, I am now writing an Assassin's Creed fanfic, which I never thought I would do, but Marie is the only person I'll talk to about it because she has inspired me to keep writing this to the point I'm actually trying to weave some of her story facts into mine just to
Yeah,
be.
and I'm kind of and I'm waiting to see how you're gonna write that because I have something planned in the future. I mean, at one point, Freddy will die, huh? It's logical,
To,
but I what's funny. I mean, it's funny that you're starting it like he's writing a letter to Elise about how this is my life, but I guess it was telepathy or something, but what I was envisioning this is that she would get a package with actually, letters and things that Freddie wrote about his life so that she can understand. So, like, how did you know that I wanted to write it like that? Obviously, in yours, Elise is dead, mine is not, but like, I'm waiting to see how you're gonna do it because I'm gonna include other things that you wrote in mine later on, but it's kind of funny.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are we saying that this is the birth of a whole alternative Unity universe here between you two? This is great.
there, see, the thing is, my ending has already been planned. I have problems
Which
with
is fine.
planning, so I will say that I'm not going to spoil anything, but my endings has been planned, and it actually will tie into Ray's fanfic quite easy
Okay, interesting.
because there is a way you could argue that even though this is a letter to Elise, because I wanted to get into the mindset of he's a man who never had the courage to tell Elise that, I'm your father. He was
Hmm.
too much of a coward, but he was a father in other ways. Sorry. But
Yeah.
I wanted to end the book, I'm not going to tell you how, where is Elise really dead? That's the question.
Oh, okay. That's
But
interesting.
what's happening to Freddy? The book will end on a cliffhanger. That's the whole point, because he's going to find a way to give Elise a letter, but Elise is dead. See,
Yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
I've got a lot of planning, because when I first started this fanfic, after discussing with you and seeing everyone's love for Freddy, I was like, people are going to be confused when they read it, because I'm going to be reading it as someone that is actually writing to Elise. But why write a letter to someone who's passed away? They're never going to read it. But what if she never passed away? That's the
Yeah.
whole takeaway. Is I'm not going to answer that question. I'm not going to mechanically or anything in my universe say she is alive and she's not. I want people to wonder that for themselves. And
Hmm.
I'm hoping I figure out how the hell to do this, because I'm such a writer's block, because I hate historical research. Literally, James may understand this because we've discussed in Discord, but trying to write fanfic and keep in
It's
line
hard.
with the law is hard
Yeah.
enough. Like I'm trying to write a British Brotherhood that are actually dicks that fall before Syndicate. That's hard in itself. But half of the locations in England don't exist in the 1700s.
I
Oh, I
know.
see your point. So how do you even describe, Freddie went out of the workhouse and down to the pub or something, unless you know whether there was workhouses and pubs or whatever your story. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Even the
it's
basics
hard.
are
I
different.
mean, you're researching London, which I would hope has a little bit more information available than what I'm writing on a little small town in the south of France, and it's kind of hard to find information. Um, I mean, the first time I visited the town, which was both because I was curious to actually see the town I was writing about, and like, hey, is it actually cool there in Sisteron in the south of France? And yeah, it is absolutely. But I visited the citadel, and on the citadel you had some maps available of the area before, so I could see like, okay, especially around Napoleon, so 1815. Because the town is absolutely linked to Napoleon. So which is also the reason why I chose it. It was not out of nowhere. You could see maps, so then I could have a tiny idea. Okay, so there's this, there's that. The town is smaller, obviously. The first B&B we were in, okay, this it didn't exist before. Okay, okay, there's a river there. There's this, there's that. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Um, okay, we went 3 times already. The more I read about it, the more information I find, but it's hard. It's hard. If it would have been Paris, I'm sure I would have found more maps. And then I could have probably just used the map of Unity or something, and kind of go from there. But even that. But the people don't realize how much research it takes to
So
paint.
have you dived into the archives, Marie-Claude, of
Not
Sister?
yet.
Okay.
Not yet. But I guess tell you an anecdote. The first B&B we were in, so I had brought costumes to take pictures, especially one at the Citadel at the time with my normal Elise cosplay that I'd taken. And it was a B&B, so obviously every morning we had to go have breakfast with the hosts, which my introverted person found really hard. But anyway, and then she was like, "So why did you come here on vacation? And what's with the costumes?" Of course, I didn't say like, "Oh, I'm writing an Assassin's Creed fan fiction." No, I just say like, "Yeah, kind of writing a story for fun, and it's located here." So I said, "Oh, I know. I know someone who works at the city hall, and she can ask the mayor if you want to look into the archives." I'm like, "Okay, slow down here,
That's
slow
amazing. So
down."
your first conversation is like, sure, we can get you into the archives.
I was like, "Yeah, maybe." Well, we never went back to that B&B because we found another
Ah,
location, and that. But I mean, it's a possibility, I guess. when I wrote in the previous chapter, when Arno is rescuing Elise from the Citadel, there's part reality, part invented in there because I just couldn't find the information that I wanted. Did this exist? Probably not, but it's also plausible that it could. Um, when I referred to old maps of, Arno's getting gifted an old maps from the 1600s, or like a 100-year-old map. Yes, that's one that I actually found online. I looked up and I found a map. So like, okay, so there's a map that exists on that. Okay, so I'm just gonna write that he's given that map that he took from the archives, and he gave it to Arno to help with this rescue mission. So yes, there's tons of research in my Scrivener, which I'm using for writing. I have a folder when I was researching the Citadel for that particular action scene. Like I had pictures, I had links, I had a lot of information, so I could just refer back when I was writing. Okay, how did it go again? Did I have a wall there? Yes, it had a wall. Yeah, it had a wall. It's complicated. It's hard.
And you said you use a tool called Scrivener to keep all of
Yeah.
your notes and thoughts
Yeah,
together.
I
Okay.
mean, I write in Scrivener. It's a writing tool. You can write your chapters, scenes, and it took me a
Okay.
while to get around to use it. I was using Google Docs before. Took me a while to get used to it, but once I was really started, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, the only problem is that, I mean, Google Docs I could just write on my phone when I had an idea. Like, oh yeah, and then you can just write it quickly. But this one, I have to wait until I'm at my computer. It's not as handy, let's say.
Mm.
They don't have a Android app yet, so can't
Oh,
do
gotcha.
that.
Gotcha.
But you can keep all information. You can write your character, all the characters you are using. You can add a description, so you can refer to it. Um, I mean, for me, I have all of my chapters since the beginning. Sometimes I was like, "Ugh, how did it go again? I mean, I wrote that 6 years ago." So then I had to go back and like, oh yeah, okay, that's how I called it. Okay, let's go back. Um, because it's hard to keep up after 7 years of writing, almost 400,000 words, and
Ooh,
it's it's
wow.
yeah. So I mean, it's a lot to keep up,
Mm,
definitely.
mm.
And sometimes I have random ideas and I just jot them down really quickly. Something for the future, for example. When I did this idea of, okay, so how is it gonna happen when Elise is gonna learn that Freddie has died? Okay, I haven't written that one yet, so I'm not gonna spoil it. But I mean, it's already written in a very quick draft, very quick. Um, when I'll reach that point, I'll just pull the draft, and I know. And when I mean draft, it's really like there's this happening, that happening, then she does that, then there's that. Nothing else, but it's enough to. Oh yeah, and then I know what I was thinking back then. I have a few like that.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Did you I'm guessing when you started, 'cause especially you were working in partnership with another writer,
Yeah.
I'm guessing the early days you were writing fast and the ideas were coming, but was there ever a period where you had writer's block and you just walked away
Oh,
from it for
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, in the beginning it was easy. I mean, yes, I was working with Lorena, and I was writing the dialogues. And she's in Brazil, so she was a few hours behind compared to Europe. So during the day, lunch break, or little breaks like that, I would write the dialogues, and then in Google Docs. And then when she would wake up or have time between classes at school, because she's a bit younger, um, she would write around it, like add the narrative bits,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
and she could read my mind. Like I was just putting dialogues without any sort of cues of what was happening in the scene. Just just pure dialogues. And she would write around me. It was like, how did you know that's what I want to write? Like how did you know that this was how I was imagining it? So and we were churning chapters once a week, if not twice a week, and that was really easy. Until it's like, yeah, she didn't have time anymore, and for me, like work was busy, so she kind of left out, but she was doing still proofreading and like reading it, and oh, maybe this, maybe that, and she would always feel free to change things, and I just let her because I know she understands me. So that was really cool. But yeah, some some stuff was sometimes hard to write. Everything around uh, Arnold's mother actually took much longer than I wanted. The situation with my life at the time was also difficult, so I had trouble to really concentrate and go on with the story. And it ended up taking me so many years to write 3 months of their lives, which is kind of weird because
Oh
it's
wow! So you were stuck for that long
yeah,
with the
because I was
Maria
publishing maybe
part.
one
Okay,
chapter per 4, 5, 6, 7 months, so maybe two a year if I if
gotcha.
and obviously I guess writing a person dying is not always the nicest part, things to write. And but yes, at one point it was really funny. I had started to work as a nurse again, and I was in home health care, and it was one of our clients who was terminal, and I ended up spending many nights at her bedside, um, just attending to her needs. But mostly she was sleeping. But yes, when she was sleeping, I could write. I was on my phone. I was writing, and a lot of the scenes of Arno being at bedside with his mother were also just what I did also with that client. So kind of inspired by how Maria would react, how Maria would be. That was what I've seen, also pulling from my experience as a nurse with terminal patients. So, but I mean, it's not fun to write. But it's true that after this was written, okay, I can move on with the story now. Because it's been years that you want to reach a point, but it was hard. I had too many changes in my life, too many challenges, and I just couldn't concentrate on writing. So that's been a rough patch,
Yeah,
a very
yeah.
rough patch, and that's one part that I wish I would have made it shorter. Um, but yeah, it is what it is.
Understood. What about you,
Mm.
Declan? You've got a bit of writer's block at the moment.
Yes, that is actually what I was going to ask about. How the heck do you get around writer's block? Because in the moment,
I just wait.
I'm doing a lot of waiting because it's a 6 week holiday, so I'm putting a lot of my mind towards my family because it's what's more important to me. But I sit there and I've got like so many ideas. It's like I write them down and you realize that they don't fit with the narrative you've built, and it just causes this block where you're like, how do I
Yeah.
push this forward?
No, it's like just write them down. Maybe an idea. Oh, maybe this, maybe that. Just so at least you remember. Um, Often enough, I like okay. The last chapter took me a little bit longer. Um, I had to write action scenes. Not the previous one, not the last one, but the one before the last. I had to write action scenes, and I'm not good at that. And I kept on, yeah, I don't know. So I was kind of pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. Um, but I was in my car going from one client to another, kind of scheming in my head, like, okay, so what could be, and then maybe this, maybe that dialogue's popping up, and okay, try to remember that. But it still took me months to finally sit down and actually write what was in my head for months already. Um, I guess I need to feel confident about, okay, yes, I know where it's going now, and that's what I'm gonna write. That normally when I'm if I'm done with a chapter, I already start with a very quick draft of the next one. But right now, there's nothing that I've started since the last one I published because I have still one unanswered question, and I can't write until I have answered that question. And the question is, who the heck could contact Arno as someone from his past, a friend?
Ah,
He
yes.
has no friends. It's terrible.
See,
That's a good point.
that is a predicament me and you are both similarly in, because when you get to a point in the story where you need a connection and none exists,
Mm-mm.
making one up is blooming impossible. Like the whole idea of Freddy having no backstory, he just appeared, and then you have to make one up. And then, as you said, with Arno having no friends, I'm trying to write Freddy working for a brotherhood, but one in-law doesn't exist in that time zone. So it's like, oh crap. But one exists 100 years later in Syndicate, and then you're
Yeah,
like, ah, crap. How do I go about this? So I think with Arno having no friends, you'll have to make somebody up. But how do you tie it
yeah,
into the story of Unity? How, when, tell you what, as an inspiration, he is the person that Arno knocked out and stole the Master Assassin robes off for the DLC, and that's how Arno got
yeah.
the Master Assassin robes
That's
off his
brilliant.
friend.
Yeah,
Perfect.
okay.
Fantastic.
Right. Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect. That's what I think. I think one of the problems I'm having that, because you've been very great helping me proofread the story. I keep getting random moments of inspiration over the weirdest things. Like I was brushing my teeth the other day, and I was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
what if they went ice skating? Why?"
Hmm.
Or
It was
Well,
a
they're
little
still
ice
having
age back
frost
then, so why
fairs.
not? Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it
Yeah.
was little ice age in those years, right?
Yeah.
yes, that's what I actually found out as a historical thing. That was a history research called right. I was like, brushing my teeth, and it's in the chapter of Fated Encounter, part one, and
Yeah,
talking about the snow. And I was brushing my teeth, and I was looking at the white toothpaste. And I was like, hey, snow's romantic. Could that work?
absolutely. You're a
Oh.
writer, Declan. This is how my brain works too. Like I'm on a traffic
Mm.
light waiting to go from one client to another, and like, oh yeah, I got it. Yes, that's what I'm gonna do. Yes, 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 yes.
It's
Or
like,
I have random dialogues going in my head, conversations. Oh yeah, oh
Please
yeah,
tell me
oh
you
yeah,
pull
oh
the
yeah.
car over, put the car in neutral, put the handbrake on, turn the engine off before you scribble down
I
your
don't
genius
scribble.
ideas.
I just go into first and then move on, and then oh yeah, let's hope I remember that. And then by the next time I stop, okay, so where was I? Okay,
Oh dear.
yeah.
to be fair, this might make his laugh. When I was writing the next chapter, which I haven't published yet or finished, it's not going to be finished till September, I was half falling asleep, and I started running the conversation in my head, and I actually replied the conversation out loud, and I actually jumped out of bed thinking someone was in the room talking, and then I remembered, no, I'm just plot twisting the book. I was like, why did I get into fanfic? This is like, why couldn't I have just done some cheesy romance novel instead of an actual heart-throbbing story?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Inspiration strikes never at the right moment. it, it, it's
Yeah.
it is what
Yeah.
it is. It's never the right moment, and then when it's time, or the whole day, you think like, okay, this and that, okay, and then when I'm gonna get home, I'm gonna write this, and then when I get home, it's like too tired. Nope, I'm just gonna doom scroll on my Twitter instead of writing because I just can't. And yeah, that's that's where I am right now. Still wondering who the heck could contact Arno.
Hmm.
And James knows because I've been picking his brain.
Yes. And I
Oh,
still don't really have. Do you know the only idea that just popped into my head when you said it a minute ago, and it's the only reason it could happen would be with a stretching believability. But what about Victor or Hugo? Do you remember them?
Yeah, but are they even a? I need an assassin contact.
Oh, you need an assassin contact. Damn it.
just
Yeah.
call it Declan. to be to be honest, what you could do, and James could correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, my leg's gone to sleep in this chair.
Mhm.
The Unity Court missions, they're
Yeah.
canonically meant to be Arno running with his assassin buddies.
Yes.
So you could pluck a name out of the hat and write a story, just a little backstory based on one of their missions, and that's where Arno first become
Yeah.
friends.
That's genius.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
And
Because I need to find a way to Arno to get kind of an opportunity to recontact the assassins. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, not necessarily that he's gonna join. I mean, spoiler alert. But it's just that it needs to have a because how are they ever gonna work the both of them for peace if only Elise is a Templar again? We need Arno with his assassin side of things, right? So, and of course, what Elise is doing right now with her school for women is very assassin y and not very Templar y, and that's just absolutely on purpose. Of course, I needed it as a plot device as well, um, but yeah, I need to have them both in the middle. I ended up the last chapter with Arno saying like, "Fuck the assassins, I'm staying with Elise," but will he? Eh, maybe not. We'll see. But I need a
It's so
contact.
tricky, isn't it? Because if you look at the game, the master assassins, Bailier, Kemar, and I can't remember the lady's name, Sophie something.
Yeah. Is that it?
They're not. There's no real relationship there, is there? There's no
No.
warmth. It's not like there's one of them you could pick and say, actually, Bailier always treated Arno really well, and they have so few scenes together. Although maybe you could make something up to your own.
Yeah, but, I mean, honestly, this is where I'm probably gonna go and like, I mean, the last chapters where Elise is kind of hinting like, okay, I need to speak to Templars here. I need to rally them behind me because no one in France and England and probably nowhere in the world wants anything to do with me because the fucking Carols have been slandering my name everywhere.
Mm,
So I need to start somewhere else. I need to build my own, not build my own order, but more or less. That's the idea. That's where I'm going. That they will rebuild their own uh, version, and hopefully, we all know that they won't achieve peace because otherwise there wouldn't be syndicate later on, and there wouldn't be anything later on. But hey,
what about you, Declan? What's next? What do you need to do to unlock your writer's block?
um, to be honest, I just need to get out my own head because
yeah,
problem is I'm such an avid reader. I've got so many knowledges from other books. My fear is upsetting community because I want to write Freddie and Julia's love story because that's where I am after Fate in Cal Part 2. But I
mm,
don't want to follow the tropes of, the good guy falling in love with the bad guy sort of trope. I don't.
uh,
I want it to be more of a. It's kind of a weird word to say this, but like a dominatrix style. Like he loves her, but she's not really the same. She's like, I admire you. You got skill, but he's head over heels because he's been treated like crap. And Julie seems to be paying him attention. She's snarky, she's sassy. He loves it, but she's indifferent. She respects him, she loves him, but she's not at that same level. But
mhm.
trying to put that in paper without falling to the trope of he only loves her because she's a Templar is kind of difficult. I just
Yeah. I mean,
need
there's so many tropes. Yeah.
I need a good cup of tea. The British way.
yeah.
So bearing in mind, Declan, that you only started writing 2 months ago,
I believe so.
Something like
maybe
that.
maybe three. what was the spark that got you writing, and what would you say to someone that kind of feels an urge to write?
Oh, mine was used to.
Right.
Seriously, I would not have ever bothered to write Freddy's if it wasn't for that Twitter thread that Marie put up, and then that was just like that got me scheming because since school I've had a problem with over imagination. So I am so full of imagination that I don't actually read words anymore. I just imagine what the words sound like and paint pictures when I read. I'm strange. So it's now like I want to do it. Let's do it. But my advice would literally to anyone, and I'd love to hear Marie's advice as well, is just do what you want. Literally
Yeah,
build a checklist. That's how I've found it. Build a checklist or a Venn diagram or a mushroom cloud, whatever you want, of your ideas, and just go for it. Wing it if you have to. Just have fun, because
yeah.
fanfics don't have to be serious. If I'm not to be rude, I'm planning to write one where and I'm gonna get a lot of trouble for this, but Jacob drinks too much booze and he wakes up in an alternate reality because he's that drunk and he has to fight werewolves and vampires.
Okay.
Why not?
It's your fan fiction, mate. You write what you like. Yeah.
And then he actually wakes up 2 days later. He's just been on a massive bender in London. He's just dreamed it all. I just felt like,
I mean, can I
As
be? If I
long as
was,
you don't, as long as you don't write anything with those bloody sex pollens or that kind of stuff, because that's so overused. There's so many of those fan fiction when there's a sex pollen that it's in the air and suddenly the characters sniff it and then they can't keep their clothes on.
to be honest,
I see.
my idea was Jacob gets invited to a mysterious bar, and Evie's like, "What are you doing? You've just got a strange note. Why are you going?" And he's like, "I want to go." He goes. He meets a strange person in this brand new tavern, and they start talking about like fiction and books. And someone mentions like werewolves and vampires, some old tales. He gets pissed, and then he starts imagining that he's like Count Dracula, but he's not actually Dracula because that wasn't written then. But he's just severely pissed for 2 days in a mysterious tavern where he was drugged because they tried to steal his money. It's a scam gone wrong. And people are going to read it like, this guy's weird. Why write a scam story where he's hallucinating as a vampire? Because I'm strange.
And because it's your idea and you just have to write it down, and
Have
I
fun.
completely agree. Just that's what fan fiction is anyway. It's your imagination that's overflowing and you just have to put it somewhere. And you want to share it with the world. That's probably the weirdest part that
But
we have, right?
is the world ready for my imagination? That's the problem. Is the
I'd
world...
say have a look at AO3 and enter tags like Jacob Fry Vampire. I'm sure there's about half a dozen already. So, nah, not that weird.
So I think the
True.
question we have left to ask, it's the only question I've got in my mind, is
Mm,
when's James going to put pen to paper and start a
damn
fanfic?
it. I have an answer for this, and the answer is I'm not really a writer. Um, and however, I have written one very, very short thing, which I don't know if you've seen, Declan. I did put it on AO3. Not I haven't done anything to promote it, but I did write a very short. It was an alternate. If Elise had survived the temple and Arno had died, what would her end of game creed speech be?
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
and that's the only thing I've written in terms of anything to do with since I left school, let's say, to do with Assassin's Creed. And that will probably be the only thing I ever write because I'm not really a writer. I'm too lazy. I'd rather talk. Talking is faster than typing.
Hmm.
Well, I do have a request for you two.
Oh, damn it. Go on then.
James is like, I'm not like this.
This sounds like homework, man. Come on. What's going on here?
Yes, it's a homework moment. I want to write a Eivor story, but set as a Viking poem style. But I want to do it as a
Interesting.
joint effort between you two, like a complete collaborative work. When I can get around to the idea of figuring out how the hell you do this.
See, I can do limericks, but proper poetry, I just haven't got the brain for it.
Neither have I. That's why it'd be fun.
If you want a limerick, I reckon I can do a limerick. But that's about as creative as I get.
So, should we all three of us just like make our own anthology of limericks for all assassins?
I have a few stored away. Maybe I should stick them on Twitter or something. That is a topic for another time. You're a bad influence, my friend.
I am. And I've just seen a little note that there are 2 fics involving Jacob, Fright, and vampirism. I will make it a third. We will call him Count
You're
Jacob.
not that weird. You're not that weird.
I'm glad to be in good company.
Yeah, there's a smutty one and there's a general one as well. Yeah.
To be fair, I was watching, I know it's completely off topic and you're going to laugh at this. I've been watching Pokemon with my kids, and I just finished reading my work back, and I just imagined, what if I just wrote a story about Altair was a Pokemon master? And all of his Pokemon were actually just Assassin's Creed characters, but their playstyles would be similar to the Pokemon. So Ezio, I was going to make a Sudowoodo just because he's sturdy. Arno was going to be Railu, and I was just like, give them all names. Go Ezio, I choose you.
Okay. Now I'm gonna check. Do they have this as well?
Pokemon Assassin's Creed fanfic.
Oh, you're searching AO3 right now to see if there's an Assassin's Creed Pokemon crossover. Yeah, gotcha.
No, there is none. At least not with Pokemon. How I wrote it. Let's see.
All right.
Let me see. Pokemon without an accent. Let's check that. No, 0. You would be a trailblazer.
It's done. My next work. Altair wants to be the very best.
Gotta catch them all.
Exactly. And every new Pokemon it captures will be named after an Assassin's Creed character. Now, who would I name for Leonardo?
I'm afraid I've never played or watched Pokemon. I cannot help you.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do this for a laugh, but I don't think I'll put on AO3 in fear of being shit.
I don't think it'll be the worst thing on AO3, that's for sure.
Yeah, no. Absolutely not the worst thing. Absolutely not the worst thing.
So, Declan, over to you, mate.
I think that is everything.
Yeah.
I think so.
Fun story. My laptop was dying, so I'm sitting on my kid's dining table set. I am 5'11", and I can't feel my legs.
Well, then
I wish there was a video of that.
Yes.
I tell you what, I will recreate this moment in the morning when my phone's charged. But my kids' chairs are really not comfortable to do podcasting. I'm like a giant in a Smurf chair. Oh, it's good to be back doing podcasts. I missed last week.
It was a good one. I think it went well.
Yeah.
So, cool. As that's all we've got time for, I want to say a big thank you to Marie for coming.
You're welcome.
And
you're welcome.
Whenever we have another fanfic community topic, it has to be you that comes on. That's now mandatory.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
We can talk about that.
And I want to thank you all for listening. And if you guys actually have any fanfics or fanfic ideas, don't be afraid to give them a go. Literally, pen, paper, have fun. I have so many ideas. I have a play in the works in the style of Shakespeare. I have a vampire book, and I now have Freddy's book. So hey, don't if you can do anything, just have fun. And I would love to hear your ideas. So you can message us on at AC Let's Talk or at James to the Quid, or you can email us at assassinscreedletstalk.com, and we'll see you all next week.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye, all.